Here on the vast continent of Africa, two nations rest side by side. Kenya, to the north, Tanzania, to its south. They share a long border, a line drawn on a map, but also a deep history. Sun-drenched plains and majestic mountains, these lands are home to incredible wildlife and vibrant, diverse peoples. Both Kenya and Tanzania lie in East Africa, washed by the Indian Ocean. Their stories were once intertwined by the threads of colonial rule. Then came independence, a new hope, a chance to build their own futures. Freedom's song echoed across the savannas. There was much optimism in the air for a shared prosperity, a united region. In these early days after freedom, the leaders dreamed big dreams. Jomo Kenyatta in Kenya and Julius Nyerere in Tanzania spoke of cooperation, of working together. The East African community was born, a promise of shared railways, ports and airlines, a common market, a common currency almost. It was a bold vision for the future. These nations are lands of great beauty, from Kenya's Masai Mara to Tanzania's Serengeti. The Great Rift Valley cuts through both, a scar of ancient earth movements. Peoples had crossed these lands for centuries, trading, marrying, sharing cultures. The lines on the map were new, but the connections between people were old. A shared heritage, a common destiny it seemed. But soon, the paths began to fork. Kenya chose one way, a path of capitalism, encouraging private business, building links with the West. Its cities grew quickly. Nairobi, a bustling hub. President Jomo Kenyatta led this charge. He believed this was the road to progress and national strength. A different vision was taking shape. Tanzania, under Julius Nyerere, chose a different direction, a path called Ujamaa, meaning familyhood or socialism, focusing on villages, on farming together, sharing the wealth of the land. Nyerere was wary of big business from outside. He dreamed of self-reliance, a nation standing on its own feet. This was a profound ideological difference, two contrasting blueprints for society. These different ideas began to create small cracks in the new East African community, like two friends wanting different things. Kenya's businesses grew fast. Tanzania worried about being overshadowed. Disagreements started to surface, about how to share the benefits, about the direction of the community. The spirit of unity began to fade somewhat. It was a testing time for the young nations. The leaders too were different. Kenyatta, pragmatic, focused on economic growth. Nyerere, an idealist, a teacher, focused on equality and social justice. Their personalities, their visions clashed, not with anger at first, but with a growing distance. The shared institutions started to struggle. Decisions became harder to make together. The dream of East African unity faced its first serious challenges. Then, in the year 1977, the first East African community, sadly, it collapsed. The dream seemed to shatter. The shared railways, airlines and harbors were divided up, not always smoothly. This was a very difficult moment. Accusations flew back and forth like birds caught in a sudden storm. The warmth of earlier friendship turned into a distinct chill between them. It was a deeply troubling period. This led to what some might call a forgotten war, though not of soldiers fighting, but an economic and diplomatic frost. Tanzania closed its border with Kenya. A long physical barrier now stood where once there was open passage. Trade between the two neighbors shrank to almost nothing. Families were separated. Businesses that relied on cross-border trade suffered. The air was thick with suspicion. Another shadow fell upon the region, the rise of Idi Amin in Uganda, a brutal dictator causing much pain. Tanzania, under Nyerere, opposed Amin strongly. Eventually, Tanzania went to war to remove Amin from power in Uganda. Kenya's position during this time was complex. It did not join the fight against Amin, and this caused more friction with Tanzania. Nyerere felt Kenya was not supportive enough of the struggle against tyranny in their neighborhood. So what did each nation want? Kenya wanted stability for its economy. It was concerned about the cost of conflict and the spread of Tanzania's socialism. It sought to protect its own interests. Tanzania, for its part, felt isolated. It wanted respect for its Ujamaa policies and solidarity against Amin's regime. It saw Kenya's capitalism as a rival system. These differing views and needs kept the two great nations apart for several long and difficult years. But time, like a great river, often smooths even the roughest stones. The cold period could not last forever. The cost of separation was too high for both Kenya and Tanzania. People in both lands wanted peace. They wanted to trade again, to visit family, to share ideas. Slowly, carefully, talks began once more. Whispers of reconciliation filled the air. In 1983, an agreement was reached to settle the old issues from the collapse of the first community. The border was reopened. A sigh of relief went through the region. Trade started to trickle, then flow. Diplomats began to smile at each other again. It was like the first rains after a long drought, bringing life back to the parched earth. The mending of fences had truly begun. A new chapter was slowly being written. And then, a truly remarkable thing happened. The dream of East African unity was reborn from the ashes. In the year 2000, a new East African community was launched, with Kenya and Tanzania and Uganda as founding members once more. Later, other nations would join. Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, and DRC Congo. They learned from the past. They built new structures for cooperation, focusing on shared economic growth and peaceful coexistence. Today, Kenya and Tanzania are vital partners. They work together in many areas: trade, security, conservation. Millions of people cross their borders. Tourists flock to see their shared wonders. Of course, like any neighbors, there are sometimes small disagreements, but the spirit is one of friendship and a shared vision for a prosperous East Africa. The forgotten war is now a memory, a lesson learned, on the path to a brighter, shared dawn. The sun rises again over these magnificent lands.